Hello and welcome to the Butterfly Effect, a show about becoming. In today's episode, we meet Sister Bethany Fitzgerald, who for more than 65 years has been serving the people of Upstate New York, helping them transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly. She's been involved with campus ministries and environmentalism, bridging science and spirituality together. You will hear from her about building and strengthening your inner core, as she shares with us her perspectives on facing challenges and other people, and tips on how one can become a butterfly in the world of caterpillars. Here is Sister Bethany's story. My first question to you, Sister, is why are you?
Why are you? Well, I like you just said, I think each one of us has a small part in where we are. We're not here by accident. I look around and I think of the times that we are situated in right now. We're not here by accident. We are here for a particular moment. And I think part of it is you get overwhelmed with what can I do? But I think the main question is how can I be at this moment? And the other piece, I think that it has to do with the time in the sense that we're in. It's a wake-up call. You can't sit on your couch potato anymore. I mean, it's like things are so critical that all around that I think it's a wake-up call. A wake-up to what we're really called to as a human being. We have a part in the role of the unfolding of the universe. I'm sure you're in touch with the universe story. We're at a critical moment, and we either are called to evolve to a sense of interconnectedness, or we may not be here in the next centuries. The time for the Lone Ranger is over. And if we don't get that message, I don't know, as a species, the Earth will continue, but I don't know about human species. I mean, I think that's just critical. I'm not talking today or tomorrow, but in centuries, in the next centuries. So I think it is a wake-up call. So I think we are here with whatever gifts, whatever experiences, whatever God has done for us in our life, in our lives to this point, for you or me. And I think the question that you said in your 30s, I ask myself every day, okay, God, what is it you want me to do? Because it becomes overwhelming. You go to the computer and I get literally 16 or 20 emails saying you need to be doing this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, okay, I need to pray in the morning, really spend time in the morning just to be centered and just to be. And out of that, okay, so what am I really being called to? And sometimes it's not what I think was on my to-do list. Is something quite different.
I was wondering how you responded to this call, to this calling of being active person in the universe.
I really am involved in 3 different areas on a day-by-day basis in the sense of my ministry. So after I finished campus ministry at St. Lawrence and SUNY in 2011, I think I finished there. I asked the community if I could start a new ministry. So I asked the community because my background is spirituality. My master's degree is in formative spirituality. And I felt that the need for a spiritual connectedness, what you just said, Lucas, I think it's the spiritual dimension. We have the material stuff, and we've gone beyond the beyond in terms of our intellectual technology and able to do these things. Unbelievable, which is powerful and wonderful. But in the meantime, have we been developing our capacity for the spiritual, our capacity to be contemplative? We're all called to be mystics, which means a sense of connectedness with everything. But we can't do that unless we have developed that. There's a wonderful book called Practical Mysticism. You might write that down because it's written by probably one of the best. She's an Episcopal woman who wrote around World War I, and her name is Evelyn Underhill. It's really worth reading, getting a copy of it, because it's quite simple to read. She says everybody's called to that, but we have to develop the capacity. You learn how to do science and math and all these other things. You have all kinds of things that help you to develop the intellectual side of the brain. But what about the art and the music and the literature and the spiritual things? How much in our schools do we have? If the budget is tight, what's the first thing that goes? Art programs, music programs, the extra drama. And so we're so lopsided in our developing what we have focused on as a culture to develop, which is wonderful, but it's out of balance. And it's the other side, the creative connected side, that gives us the direction of how to use the technology and all the things that we've invented. Because like you say, in terms of AI, it's what we do with it. It's incredible. It's exciting, but it's challenging to know who's going to be in charge of it and how is it going to be used. And it's the developing the spiritual connectedness, that sense of connectedness of the sacred, however you name that sacred. I mean, I'm certainly very open to, we name the sacred in different faith traditions, but it's the same divine, sacred. So how do we develop within our own lives? And maybe that's what I'm saying, going back to the practical. It's essential to me that I take time to be still. Try. Does that mean I'm not distracted all over the place? But it's always coming back. You know, I must put it in the park lot. I really came to sit at the feet of the Lord and say, okay, what's your plan for me today? To kind of clear the whatever, because I think that's what we need. I need to give some direction to what I'm doing, because I could be doing 16 million things in the house, out of the house, on the road, whatever.
I can totally resonate that the daily reflection helps a lot to kind of zero on the most important goals in the world of distractions. And I really cherish your approach to technology, to take this kind of middle ground that technology can bring challenges, but also can bring solutions. What do you think are the biggest challenges of technology that bring to our spiritual self-development, and how can we mitigate those challenges?
I just saw that now, even back then, but even more so now, to be able, I know that the people are hungry. I think there's more and more people hungering for this spiritual dimension, but their schedules are so crazy that it's so hard to find a time for them to actually say, to get away a weekend is like, whoa, to get even a day of reflection or a few hours of a program is very difficult. So I still believe that I need to offer it to those who can be there, to create a space. That's all we're doing. Gotta take care. You just gotta be there, and you gotta be still enough to be able to discover what's hidden within our hearts. So where's the technology? What I'm beginning to see is that there are so many programs now through the internet and that are offered that people can be coming home from work and sitting in their bed at night, and they've got a program, whether it's some speaker or some reflections on scripture, it's programs. I mean, there are so many of them now, and they're good. I mean, not all of them. There are levels of whatever, but I know you know that. But I just think technology has the potential of really helping people be able to do it whenever and wherever they are in their busy lives, or their families, or their jobs, or whatever, their travel. It gives them an opportunity. So I see that as a positive thing. And obviously technology, you know, there's just so much that connects us, you know, like I go on the computer and there's all this stuff on just to be connected with all these places around the world and the country that are doing things. And there's such a source that I think technology and our connectedness can give us a sense of hope, because we look at our little programs that we're doing and it looks like a drop in the bucket. Then you get on the internet and say, oh my gosh, there's other people. Oh my gosh, isn't this great? So I think that sense of a sense of hope that our interconnectedness realizing that other people are doing stuff. I'm not alone. I don't have to do it all. It's God's mission, not mine anyway, to remember that. That's why we need to listen to see what is it God's calling us, because I love, there's a quote here. I just want to give you this little quote. It was a retreat. It was given to me this past retreat up in Canada. Anyway, this is what it says. And this is Joseph Campbell. You know Joseph Campbell? All right, this is his quote. We must be willing to get rid of the life we planned so that we have the life that is waiting for us. Sometimes every day is like that, or every week or whatever. And maybe you've had changes in terms of job, in terms of what you felt we were being called to, and then it got changed. I thought that was a wonderful thing to ponder. We must be willing to get rid of the life we planned so as to have the life that's waiting for us. And I wonder if that doesn't connect with the butterfly, because the caterpillar thought that this was it. And it has to let go of being a caterpillar in order to become something more. And there's a quote here. Have you ever read the book, Hope for the Flowers?
Not yet.
All right, write that down. It'll take you about 20 minutes to read the book. It's written for about second grade level. The pictures are phenomenal, but it's probably one of the most profound books on the revolution of life. And it's all about butterflies. It's all about the caterpillars trying to climb this pillar, and knocking people off to get to the top. And when they get to the top, there's nothing. But there's one who doesn't go to the caterpillar pillar. She stays and meets a pillarfly that tells her what she needs to do. Anyway, it's profound. And this is the quote from that book. How does one become a butterfly? You must want to fly so much that you're willing to give up being a caterpillar. And that's the plans that we have planned for, right?
And that's the hope we are sharing. And I know you are instilling this sense of hope in many, many people for the 65 years of your service. And I know you work first as a person committed to formation of young people, and then you move to forming the adults. What is the difference in helping the young versus the old transform themselves into butterflies, in instilling the sense of idealism and honing that through lifetime?
I think it's my training at Duquesne Informative Spirituality says that, the dynamics are the same. The structure, the situation is different. I still work with college kids as often as we can to get them involved in whatever we're doing, like on faith and ecology. We have 2 college students. One just got her master's, and another one is working on defending her master's in ecology. But going back to the dynamics of the growth, it's very much the challenge is the same, and the dynamic is the same. It's recognizing where I am, what I feel called to, what do I need to let go of in order to move forward. The dynamics are the same. So I feel that when I was given, actually that program was focused on, that was a 3-year program, and it was focused on developing of religious formation, young people coming into religious life, because at that time it was right after Vatican II, and the religious life was very structured. And after Vatican II, it was really not so much the structures. It had to do with being in touch with yourself and being self-motivated and being in touch with what you needed. And so that whole dynamic, that's where it started. But I realized that the dynamics of that whole process fit wherever, whether I was teaching 7th grade, high school, college kids. I do a lot of adult formation in retreats. It's the same dynamic. It's just different sections in terms of where people are at in the process.
I think that's one of the most interesting takes on that, because I myself always felt like it's so much harder to put together your hopes and dreams when you're getting older. But I think maybe you're right. Maybe we just have the same struggle. And the biggest struggle, I think, is how to be persistent. I always recall when I go on January 2nd to the gym, and I cannot just find the machine I can use because it's so popular that day to be in the gym. And then when I come in March, it's almost empty because of our kind of New Year resolutions we make every year that this will be the year I will finally deliver. And there's, I think, the pressing question from your experience, how to make that commitment a committed commitment, how to keep persistence in our butterfly effect.
I think it's a day by day thing. There are times when it's not difficult because there's so much hope out there or you're inspired. But there are other days when it's like, does it really make any difference? I think it has to do. I think we should pray every day for perseverance. I want to tell you that I do the 4 directions, the prayer, the 4 directions outside when the weather is good every day. And when I face the east, because you know, you open your arms and invite the energies of the earth from the east, are new beginnings, brand new day. This day will never come back again. But when I turn to the south, which is usually my garden, I pray for patience and perseverance.
Mm.
Because when you look at a garden, you have to be patient. I had my first tomato today from my garden. But it meant I had to be patient to water it and believe that I was going to get fruit from it sometime. So I think that whole thing, I think every day I pray for patience and perseverance, that I don't give up, that I look for the little signs of hope today. So I go out my door and I see there's a flower in bloom, something that puts me back in touch with, it's a slow process. It's just a process, and that's what nature tells us. It's a slow process, but you got to stick with it and keep it watered. See, the watering for me is the watering with the prayer, the watering with reading, the prayer, making sure that I have people that I can connect with, that, you know, small groups of people that continue to support and to challenge me to continue. I think those are all important things to keep us going.
You also mentioned the Second Vatican Council, and I think you come from this very robust perspective of 65 plus years of service to the church. How church has been changing in this time? Do you see any changes, or it's still the same church built on the rock? What are the challenges? What are the new things that you need to face as an institution of a very, very big flock?
I guess I always thought, even as a campus minister, I was always kind of on the fringe. I never was, most of my religious life was not in the heart of a parish. Campus ministry is a different place of being. It's in creativity, it's in newness, it's in the structure's there, and but I'm not as in touch with that as maybe somebody who's right in the heart of the whatever. It's there as a structure, as a basic foundation. I get very excited about, well, like people like Pope Francis, and I think this new Pope, it's like, wow. I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, I was, when Laudate Si was first published, I was at a meeting with 20 other people of faith and ecology with our bishop on a magnificent loon lake, which was in Saranac Lake. I don't know if you were up in that area when you were here, but absolutely pristine, beautiful place. And there was a climate scientist there who's written all kinds of books. He's in the local university. We went around and gave responses, and when he read that to I don't have the quote, it's in the introduction, that it's a sin to do things to, he had tears in his eyes, and he passed the book to the next person. He said, I can't read it. He is a scientist. He says, we know what we need to do, but we don't have the will to do it. Mm-hmm. And for him to see a person like the head of the Catholic Church saying what he knew in his heart, and even came to us as a group to come and talk to his students, it was like that experience of the church is so right on in terms of that sense of what the gospel's about. So I think I'm very excited in terms of that broader context of the vision of the gospel today. That not everybody's there. And I think one of the greatest challenges is to somehow, how can you dialogue with people who have a very different view, whether it's the church, whether it's the country, whether it's an issue? How do you become a peacemaker in the midst of it all? And what does it mean to live the gospel today? What does it really mean? I mean, do you really take literally what Jesus is saying? I think I don't want to look at the passion. I like the early days of Jesus, and I like the resurrection, but then in between, I think that's a great challenge today, and I don't know where it's challenging me and the world and the church, us.
Yeah, to some extent, I think it also connects to that butterfly effect because some biologist told me the other day that the caterpillar takes enormous effort but also pain to become butterfly. It almost feels like being ripped, almost like dying. It's an enormous negative sensation and trauma to that being. And yet, at the end, you become that butterfly. And I think that also connects to the sense of our spirituality and religiosity, that we like to see butterflies, but we sometimes forget about the process of becoming one. And I know for you, the process also has been a long journey of finding different places, different people, different ways. And the Laudato Si that you mentioned by Pope Francis, I think been very transformative to you. Could you tell us a little bit more and how you live the legacy of Laudato Si even now when Pope Francis has passed away?
Well, we had faith and ecology groups, which is trying to bring faith and science together. We started that in the mountains. We started another group in Watertown. We started another group in Canton and Potsdam. We had some wonderful professors. So there's a lot of energy there. We've been working on that before Laudate Si came along. It was like, oh my gosh, we've been working on this for 5 years. And now the Holy Father's saying it. Wow. So how do we continue? Well, we continue in those groups. Trying to, figure out what is the best thing that we can do and not overextend to the extent that we get burnt out. I think that's a real challenge. Our diocese also has a Laudate Si diocesan committee, and we work with the Syracuse diocese, who has a task force. I grew up on a farm. I grew up outside. I grew up on horseback. I had rheumatic fever. My dad managed a racing stable, so I went to the stable every single day, no matter what the weather was. I rode horseback since I probably was 5 years old. My great heroes were the Native Americans. I read every book that I could get my hands on because they knew how to listen to the earth. So that's my rooting is there. And so when I got to modern day, when we had 225 acres up there, I thought that was going to be the dream of the earth of Thomas Berry's, out of the new cosmology. Everything was connected, and then our college closed. And from that, I just want to say a little bit, because I was thinking about this in terms of the caterpillar versus the whatever. So I thought I'd spend the rest of my life developing that whole universe in light of the new cosmology and the universe story. So when that ended, I felt like that was a real death. And I can remember they told us in January and we didn't end until May. So it was like a wake for 5 months. Journeying with people who had no idea what they were doing, the students and the faculty and everybody. And I can remember walking across the campus saying, God, I have no idea what's going to come out of this death. But somehow I know new life will come. And I think that's the butterfly thing. That's the crisis. That's the crisis in terms of death. And I took a whole year off. I was helping out in a parish. And that's when St. Lawrence University, Father Drew decided to move out of campus ministry. And so it was that next year that I became the campus minister at SUNY, at St. Lawrence and SUNY. And I thought interesting how it looked like a death. We had about 350, 400 students at Mater Dei. And I felt like our faculty and me got catapulted out of that little place and connected with students and faculties from both of the universities, which were larger than that. So out of that, what I felt was death, and I had no idea literally what I was going to do. And out of that, I could see how new life came in ways that I would never have dreamed of. That fits that quote very well. I had plans of what I thought I was going to be doing, and God had other plans. And I would meet faculty and staff who took the spirit of Mater Dei, Mother of God, that whole sense of service. It was always the motto of the college was to help people get a step up. And being a horseback rider and the racehorse, the jockey just needed a foot up. You had to give him a hand to get up on that horse, and once he got on the horse, it's gone. And I felt that's what we did at Mater Dei. We gave people that step up that didn't have the opportunities for various different reasons. And then, man, they took off. So I think that spirit was catapulted out of Mater Dei and put in other places and other universities and whatever, because we beat each other. The reunion. Anyway, I'm not sure that's not off the track, but it does fit this butterfly kind of thing, because it is out of that death and that suffering and that pain and that feeling of not having uncertainty, having no idea what the next step was going to be.
That's a very powerful statement. And I was actually wondering, what kept you strong in those days when you know, like, the entire world almost that you knew is falling apart, and yet you still stood committed to your ideas and idealism? What kept you strong?
Because it's just the situation changes, but the challenge is there. I think the difference is trying to figure out how to do it now is how I did it before. And to be honest with you, it hasn't changed a lot other than getting, when I finished campus ministry. But I work with the lay associates, which there are 54 lay associates, or people from all walks of life who feel the same spirit as the Sisters of St. Joseph. So I travel up to Plattsburgh and the mountains every month and meet with people. So there's lay associates, and then social justice. And I'm the coordinator of the justice promoter for the community. Well, any one of those three things could be a full-time ministry. So I try to figure out how can I best serve in these three areas. But you know what the bottom line is? It's the challenge of supporting and helping people to grow in their spiritual lives. The situations are different, but the dynamics. And how do we serve the dear neighbor? So through the justice kinds of things, through giving retreats and directions and all that kind of stuff. How do we support people on their journeys? So even though they're different places, spaces, the dynamics and the call is the same. We're on the journey together. How do we support and support the neighbor wherever we are?
This is powerful. And you mentioned also growing up on a farm. And I remember before meeting you, I Googled Cape Vincent, and it's such a beautiful place, like right next to the river, surrounded by wonderful places. What is your most vivid memory of childhood?
And it has to do with the faith thing. I can remember, because when you reflect back on, has your image of God changed since you were a little kid? Now, has it changed? I've often asked people on retreats, and I thought about it myself, because I thought, if I'm going to ask them, I need to do this process myself. And I just remember very vividly, I remember the horse that I had, and it was a day in June. It was one of those picture-perfect blue sky days in the fields, and I can remember riding my horse up towards the hill and thinking, oh my gosh, God is so good. I mean, it was just so magnificent. I had this great horse under me, all this energy, magnificent. And I remember having this experience. I would say that's probably one of my really experiences of God as being real, as the creator, as the giver of all gifts. So I think that that's a powerful image that comes to me. And I'm still riding horses. And there's something about that energy. I don't know. There's lots and lots of things on the farm and swimming and all kinds of skiing and all kinds of stuff. But it relating to my faith journey, I really think that that's a vivid memory for me.
And then that journey led you to become a sister of Saint Joseph. So what was the path towards that decision?
Well, I think it has to do with that I came from a Catholic family. I had two older brothers who spoiled me. I was the youngest, spoiled me rotten. And I just felt so blessed. I felt so blessed that God had given me so much. And it was on a high school retreat. And I remember there was a reflection on the Passion of Christ and giving himself to me in the Passion. And I just thought, God, how can I say no if I think this is what you're calling me to? How am I going to say no when I know what you've given me this gift? How can I say no? And even as a little kid, I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I remember a lot of people, their image of God was a putter downer. The commandments, you have to do this, and I thought, I just think God is so good that maybe I'm called, instead of being a putter downer, I'm called to be a putter up, to bring joy, to be that, to share the joy that God had given me. And I had an opportunity to go to college. My aunt and uncle would have given me college, a car, whatever. And I thought, I'm going to do that first. And then I'll think about being a sister. But when I went to talk to the Mother Superior, said, oh, sister, now, dear, you could get your college education while you're becoming a sister. I said, oh, shucks, I thought I could do that first. I said, okay, I'll give it my best shot. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, I'm out of here. And then I'll pursue. Well, it just felt like the right shoe. You put the right shoe on, you say, this is it. Might not have looked like the one I thought I wanted, but it fit. So I really have never felt any regret. I just felt that's where I was meant to be.
Yes, I remember the statement you shared with others while celebrating your Jubilee. You said that your purpose is to bring the joy of God to others. And I think that's an amazing life mission. And how do you do that?
I really think the greatest call is to listen these days. I don't know everything. My experience is very different than other people's, and I need to listen to that and not try and impose something on somebody else. And I really need to listen because I only have a little tiny sliver of reality. I need to listen to what other people's experiences are and what they have gone through and what their wisdom that they have gleaned from their experiences that's very different than my experience because their experiences are different. So I think the challenge is to really shut my mouth and listen. And it's not always easy because I don't want to hear if somebody who really disagrees with a whole lot of things that I really hold dear, it's very hard to keep my mouth shut. And I think it's not that you're supposed to take it all in and not say anything. We have a great person who said, you listen. And then after you really have listened, to be able to say, I appreciate, or whatever you say, to affirm what you understand they're saying and say, I just have a little different way of looking at that. And that takes practice to do that. Sometimes I don't because it's so powerfully not what I believe that I'm so overwhelmed by the not what I believe or see things that it's hard to formulate something that won't engage in how do you find something that doesn't engage in a conflict or a debate, but that meets the person at a different level? I think that's the challenge. And I can't say that I'm real good at that. Sometimes I I don't say anything. Maybe by my silence, except I don't agree. I don't know. I don't know what the other person experiences when I don't say much, because I don't want to get caught in this crossfire of what they think and what I think, and it doesn't go anywhere when I go there.
And last but not least, what the butterfly effect means to you.
I think it really means that you believe in the butterfly. You believe that there's something. We are called to something more, even personally. I don't care how old we are. My mother was 103 before she died, and she was astute and right with it right up to the bitter end, if you want to say. I think it's recognizing that we're all, no matter where we are, always being called to the more. And that's really Jesuit, being called to the more. And that not just me, it's being in touch with the power that calls me. It's not about me. It's about being the channel through which God can speak whatever he wants to speak through you or me. How do we become that channel? That's not about us. It's about being open to his call and his energy and whatever. It's listening. That's what discernment every day. What is it? Where is it? Physically, mentally, emotionally, where I am and how do you want me to use me today? And I think it's always a call to recognize that it's not about me. It's being the channel, being the vehicle through which you can bring that sense of life and joy and what a butterfly does that gives life. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense, and I think it's also a great call to action for everyone who listens. So thank you so much, sister, for mobilizing us, inspiring us, and calling us to action, because without action, none of that matters. So thank you so much.
That's right. We have to keep pollinating those flowers.
Exactly. And we will start with your garden.
Right, exactly.